Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hey everyone, welcome back. I am Amber Jones, and I'm here with Kristen Blakely and Cindy Murray.
Hello.
Hello.
And we're back with another fun-filled episode, an episode of Writer's Corner. I suppose that's kind of
I
like...
think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like a little category that we have where I talk about different writing like things, Writer's Corner. So we're back with one of those episodes. And today we're talking about annotation.
Yay.
Don't be too good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I need help with this because, I've been annotating that book, Anatomy of an Epidemic, which we covered last week. And, I need to help learning how to do this the right way.
Well, I like annotation. I think it's pretty fun. And we're going to talk about annotation, what it is, why it matters, and how it actually helps you become a stronger reader, thinker, and writer.
Okay.
So when most people hear the word annotation, they think of highlighting random lines or scribbling notes in the margins of a book. But I mean, real annotation is much more than that. It's kind of like the act of actively interacting with a text while you read it.
Okay.
And I always say, like, if you're really wanting to annotate something, that you should read it at least twice.
That's what I heard too. Yeah.
The first time, read it for pure pleasure. And, kind of keep like, and this is what I tell my students also, kind of keep in mind like what you're thinking about and like maybe underline something, highlight something if you want to. Like it really depends on, for me, but like the second time, the second time you read it, that's when you really want to like get into the annotation aspect, especially if you're going to annotate a fiction book.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first time you read a fiction book, you do it for entertainment. You don't want to do it for unless you're going to take like the STAR test or something like that. You're not doing it for an analytical aspect, unless you're doing it for school.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say read it the first time for pleasure. So when you annotate, you want to like... and you're really reading something to annotate, you want to slow down and think critically and make a meaning of something you're reading instead of just, move your eyes across the page or listen. Well, you really can't annotate while you're listening to a book unless you write notes while you're listening to it. I guess that would kind of be annotating an audiobook if you're writing notes and questions while you're listening to it.
Maybe.
No. I have a friend.
I disagree.
I have a friend that likes to do both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
She
Yeah,
likes to listen to an audiobook and read the book
At
and
the same
annotate
time.
at the same time.
Yes.
So maybe that's the way you do it, is you
Yeah.
listen to it and you read
Reading
it at the
along.
same time
'cause
and
you're reading
underline
along.
and highlight and stuff like that. So at its core, annotation means that you're marking important ideas and recording your thinking, whether you're writing questions in the margins or writing paragraphs about what you're reading. And like really, annotation can be different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask y'all like a question to start off with, like I know, Cindy, you're annotating the book, but
Yes.
before this book, and Kristen also, like, have y'all actively annotated anything, really?
Not a whole book, just so the closest I've gotten to annotating a book would be like my like on my Bible using different highlights.
That's what I was going to say.
On
I
an
did a
e-reader
lot of...
Bible where I could
yeah.
use like on like my Kindle and use different colors to highlight. That's the closest I've ever gotten to.
I've annotated in my Bible, but not all the way through the book. Just as I read things, I'll highlight things or make notes in the margin. I did sort of annotate A New Earth when we read it. It was mostly just underlining big points. I mean, it really literally was just underlining. It was all the same, color of pen or highlighting, I guess is what it was. And I just used the same color of highlighter. And there was so much in there that I couldn't even find what I was looking for after I annotated it. I would just have to read through page after page to find the concept that I was trying to go back to. Same thing. I read Brene Brown's Rising Strong, and I read that on my e-reader, and I highlighted it with highlights and made notes. But again, it was just one color of highlighting, and I just underlined key or highlighted key concepts. And I did actually take those and printed them out. I took those highlighted notes and printed them out so that when we talked about the book I think we did a couple of episodes where I talked about that book, and so I had the notes there to go by. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and most certainly, I do the same thing, especially if it's like on my second reading of a book. I have in the past really gotten into certain books where I will go and I will do the style of annotating where you journal in a book. Like if I'll highlight and underline what I like. I will draw pictures in the margins. I'll ask the text questions. I'll journal in the margins my thoughts and feelings of the book. And I have a few books, my favorite books, that I've gone and done that with.
Okay.
On a second reading.
So explain this, ask the text a question. What kind of question do you ask it?
Well, that's a good question. Depends on what you're reading. Like if you're reading, say, what we talked about last time, Anatomy of an Epidemic, and say you read, let me just pick a random passage from the book. Now, I didn't like that one. Let's see. So, chapter 3, The Roots of an Epidemic, he says, it may seem odd to begin an investigation of a modern-day epidemic with a visit back to one of the great moments in medical history, but if we are going to understand how our society came to believe that Thorazine kicked off a psychopharmaceutical revolution, we need to go back to the laboratory of German scientist Paul Ehrlich. So a question that you could ask in the margin would be why is Paul Ehrlich so important?
Or where were we in medical technology
even though
during
that
his
is
time?
So you would ask that question even though that is technically answered in the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but you don't know that it's answered yet. I mean, he's going to answer it.
You would if you've read it before, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Why are you doing that? I'm just kidding. But that's true. You could still ask that question though. I mean, this is kind of something that I teach my students on a first reading. Because I teach them first reading annotation and second reading annotation.
Okay.
So a first reading annotation, I like to teach, especially for a nonfiction thing such as this, I try to teach them the 5 W's plus H. And I know y'all can probably guess what the 5 W's are.
Who, what, when, where,
why, and how.
And how. So if you're reading this paragraph, the who would be German scientist Paul Elric.
Mm-hmm.
The what would be that he is
Thorazine.
yeah, he invented Thorazine. Where, I mean, his laboratory,
In
Germany
or whatever. Yeah.
Mhm.
When,
That's important. That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
When. Yeah.
Yeah.
when, so it goes on to say 1854.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
when and why? Well, we're talking about medication and inventing
Right.
medications.
And what was the purpose in 1980 or 18 blah blah
Well,
blah?
in
Yeah.
that particular instance, he wasn't the one who invented Thorazine, but the experiments he was doing is what led to the discovery of Thorazine.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
much later. But
So,
yeah.
like, if you're reading this, like, specifically a nonfiction the first time, then you would definitely ask
you would definitely
the questions. And then go back when you read the second time, you would find the answers.
So
to the
what would you do in a fiction? Like say Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, so
Wherefore art thou, Romeo?
right. So
I'm just trying to do something that I know you're familiar with.
So you could definitely, like, especially when you're reading Shakespeare for the first time, you want to ask those questions. Like, you want to highlight, you especially want to highlight words that you don't know. And that's another thing that I have the kids do when they read something the first time. So, like, a pre-reading annotation is you want to highlight words that you don't know. You want to put question marks in the margin. And, you don't have to specifically ask the text a question at that point. But you want to put a question mark next to something that you don't know.
Understand or know. Okay.
And then you want to, like, underline what you think is a big idea or put, like, an explanation point. And I'll get into that also, like, different ways that you can annotate. But, and that would be like a code, like the question mark, the explanation point, emojis. That would be a code, an annotation code. Just, it's kind of like when you were talking about highlighting in your Bible.
Right.
Different colors. That's also a code.
Right. Which is what I did in Anatomy of an Epidemic. I color coded the different things that I highlighted depending on whether they were historical information or medical data, statistics, and facts.
Yeah. Or something emotionally triggering.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, for fiction initial reading, you want to read for things like confusing things, big ideas, words you don't know, characters, basic plot. And those are the type of things that you would underline if you're, like, reading something for the first time. Like lines that you like, highlight lines that you like, key plot points that you want to question.
Okay.
Characters. I know a lot of people like to keep, like, an ongoing list of characters. Like, say, if you're reading something like Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
Since there are 1,000 characters in that series. Like, if you're wanting to annotate Game of Thrones, that's my first advice for that would be to highlight and color code the characters, or at least keep a running list of characters you come across, because every chapter in that book is a different character, and it cycles through all of the characters and then goes back.
And then there's characters in the chapters.
Yeah, then there's different characters that don't have their own chapters.
Right.
So, like, the first chapter would be Eddard, and the second chapter would be Jon Snow, and then Sansa, or something like that. And it would cycle through the whole family, plus the other characters like Tyrion, and like all of it would cycle through all of the main characters, and then then start going back and forth, which in itself is a confusing book, because then you're like, one chapter you're reading a 12-year-old girl's perspective, and then the next chapter you're
That was
reading.
the first book I'd ever read with multiple
really?
personalities.
Yeah,
wow.
I want to say that George R.R. Martin has multiple personalities to be able to write from a 9-year-old girl's
He
perspective.
does have a lot of ghostwriters too. So
Well, that's so true. That is so true. To be able to write from a 9-year-old girl's perspective and then
to
a
suddenly
40-year-old
switch.
man's
Yeah.
perspective. I'm surprised he didn't write any chapters from the dragon's perspective. That's what I would have done. Okay, George R.R. Martin, if you're listening to
finish
this,
the stupid story.
finish the
Right.
story, and that whole last
And it
book.
better not be like the show. Don't spoil anything, Amber, because
I haven't not seen all the shows. So
Oh no,
'Cause
I'm
waiting
just
for
saying, right from the dragon's perspective. Go back and put a chapter in each book from the dragon. A funny story is that I recently read a book called Lights Out by Nevessa Allen, and it's a dual perspective book from a man and a woman, and then like the woman has a cat who's a very much a big huge part of the story, this cat. And then, so what she did was, when she came out with the special edition of her book, which I need to go and buy it, she put in a chapter from the cat's perspective.
Was it like meow 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 meow?
I don't know. I need to go and buy it and read it. Because that would be like the highlight of my day, if like, the character has a cat, and then you go and then you put the perspective of the cat. So George R.R. Martin needs to go in and put a dragon perspective. That would just be
entertaining.
Yeah, that would just be like, that would make me go back and reread the books if he just went in and did bonus chapters, came out with special editions of his books with bonus chapters of the dragon's perspective. So yeah, you're putting the characters' names, and you're keeping up with all the characters, and that's really good. That's a really good first read to do, which I've thought about doing in the past on books, like big epic series. So, and that's a good thing that you do for like the first time, especially with fiction, keeping up with the characters, basic plot points and everything like that. And yeah, for definitely Romeo and Juliet, you want to ask the questions and definitely highlight, if it's your Shakespeare, especially reading it for the first time, you either want to read a side-by-side version.
Right.
Or you want to highlight all the words that you don't know.
Right.
I also suggest, if you're reading Shakespeare for the first time, that you read it side-by-side version, so you can kind of look back and forth. And then you go and watch the BBC movie. Because then you can even look at the book while you're watching the BBC movie, and then you'll understand it after that. That's how I made it through college.
That's what I always tell people with Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune, is to read the book, watch the movie, and then go read the book again. Because it makes more sense. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
I'd say do that with Game of Thrones also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are some great places to start. I mean, I've never done anything, a fiction book before. I've only ever done nonfiction, and my basic methodology, I guess, is the same thing I used when I was studying in high school or college. Like, I would go circle words, any kind of vocabulary word, and then underline the definition. I might highlight, important maybe not plot points, because this would be nonfiction, but, important points or whatever. And but like, I was doing this Anatomy of an Epidemic, and I'm gonna have to show a picture of this book.
Yeah, go and like organize and see, like, when you were explaining to me before we started recording this episode how you were doing Anatomy of an Epidemic, and I remember telling you, well, you're doing it correctly. You're annotating correctly.
And basically I looked online and just found different, I just asked, you know, Google or whatever, how do you annotate a book, and it basically said, come up with a color code
Yeah.
and it gave me some beginner topics that for the colors. So as I mentioned in here, I did in this particular book, I did the history of psychiatric science.
Mm-hmm.
I did anecdotes or case studies in one color. I did all the science facts and data and all that in a color. I highlighted everything that was controversial in a color. I did definitions in one color. I asked questions in another color. I highlighted quotes, and I used references and biographical information. And then one that the list recommended was non sequiturs, which is non-logical conclusions. It's like when a question comes to a non-logical response is a non sequitur.
Yes.
And so I did that, and then it also said, extend your notes into the column, into the margins, and summarize things and make inferences, ask questions, number, like if there's like two paragraphs that kind of go through a step by step, go through and highlight and number each of the little main topics of the steps, even though it's not presented as a list like that. So I have this little sheet note that I carried with me, and sometimes I would forget, look it up. What color was a quote? Oh yeah, but this thing is, I've got all these little tabs. I've got underlines and highlights and all these different colors. And man, it's like crazy. It's crazy looking.
See that? Yeah. And that's the first thing that I would tell anybody, if you're going to go like into deep analysis of anything, is to make a code.
Mm-hmm.
And, either a color code or an emoji code. You could do color code highlighting, color code tabs, a combination of both. The kids these days, they like to do the emojis, or like an exclamation point, a question mark, a smiley face. And definitely, like you did, keep a running thing of the codes.
Right.
Because, if your Anatomy of an Epidemic is a big, thick book, if nobody has seen it in person. So, you can only read probably 10, 20 pages at once.
Right.
If that. And then when you sleep on that and then go back,
right.
you need that reference thing by what did I use pink highlighter for?
Right. That's literally what I would be sitting there highlighting, and I'd go, oh, wait a minute. This is somebody's story. I need to highlight that in what color? Yeah. Okay. Pink. Okay. Let's do that. And yeah, it literally, I would just forget what color I was using because I was trying to get it annotated. And I will say I rushed through this because it would take me, even having read this once already, it would take me a day to get through a chapter of annotating this. And I'm looking at this. I'm open to page 96 and 97. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors on this one page, plus margin notes. So, it's like crazy. There's tabs that talk about, to point at different things that I wanted to remember, go back to that, so. And even then there was so much that was annotated. I still had to annotate my annotations when I got ready to talk about that episode because there was just so much. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of fun doing it, but it's a little bit crazy.
Well, I know that we talked about annotating. As a result of this podcast, we talked about getting together and annotating a fictional book.
Yes, we did.
So I will give y'all some tips for we picked Hatchet that we're going to annotate, and I'll give y'all some tips for when you're annotating, and you can do this like I said in the color code or the symbols or whatever. So like when you so some tips like when you're marking things up. So things to do with characters.
Okay.
Number one, things to do with characters like character traits, decisions, turning points.
Oh, okay.
Character conflicts, internal, external conflicts. So, characters.
Okay.
And then themes, big ideas would be number two. So, it could be anything to do with themes or big ideas like statements about life, society, repeated patterns, theme patterns, repeated ideas, repeated symbols, conflicts. And then realization moments.
Ah.
And I can also, and I'll share with y'all something that I do with my students, like a formal annotation thing that schools do. And then the third thing I would say to look for is conflict. I know we talked about conflict with the characters, but this is a repetition of that, like internal conflict, external conflict, man versus nature, man versus whatever, rising tension, cause and effect moments. And then number 4 would be figurative language.
Okay.
Which also helps like the plot and the theme and everything like that. So tone and mood shifts, figurative language. So anything authors craft
related. The literary devices? Is that figurative language?
Yes.
Okay.
Like metaphors, imagery, symbolism, similes, onomatopoeia. And then repetition can also go with literary devices. But anything important such as that, especially like the language that you like, your favorite lines. And that's definitely a good one for Shakespeare because you have to really pay attention to the figurative language when you're reading poetry or Shakespeare. And then another thing to look for would be shocking moments, reactions from you. Any time that you have a reaction to the text, like the mood, how it makes you feel. So like confusion, personal connections, you want to highlight personal connections, powerful moments that you have with the text.
Okay.
And so, and while you're doing this, you could do notes or pictures in the margins, questions that you have. And those are and then I also want to say number 6, and we talked about this before, vocabulary, like words that you don't know. And the method that I use with my students, it's called, that where they go and they highlight these fictional things. It's called Notice and Note. And I believe I've talked about this on the podcast before.
I think so.
Because Kristen said it was very similar to Cornell Notes. So notice and note, and this is where your highlighting and everything would come in. Notice and note focuses on different signposts, that you monitor in a text. So, and the different signposts are contrast and contradictions,
Mm-hmm.
Aha moments, so character realization moments. Tough questions, that's when you would question the text, or if the character has a tough question.
Okay.
Words the wiser, so any important advice given or anything words wise that you find important in a text.
Okay.
Again and again, which is the repetition, like the repeating of symbols and words and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And then memory moment.
Memory.
That's when a character has a flashback.
Oh, okay.
And remembers things that like push the plot along.
Forward. Yeah. Okay.
And those are the different signposts that I have. Those are the different things that I have the kids look for when it comes to fictional things. And all of that pretty much covers all of the things that I told y'all to look for.
Right. Well, and some of those are similar to annotating the nonfiction. I mean,
it is very similar.
Yeah,
you can use notice and note for nonfiction as well.
Right, because he uses, there's contrast and contradiction. There's aha moments. There's tough questions, again and again. And the memory moments, those are all part of this, this other book Yeah,
you can totally use this for nonfiction as well. I just use it mostly for fiction.
Uh-huh.
And then I use the 5 W's for nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
But you can totally use notice and note for everything.
Right. Okay.
Even probably, so I do like a couple of other things, like because I teach rhetoric as well, and I have a system that I use for rhetoric. It's called Soapstone.
Soapstone. Okay.
Yeah, and that's for speeches and stuff.
Okay.
And that would be like highlighting the speaker, highlighting the occasion,
okay,
highlighting the audience, the purpose, the subject, and the tone.
Okay.
So that, and all that spells out Soapstone.
Okay.
And then one that I use for poetry is called TP Cast.
TP Cast.
TPCASTT.
Okay.
And that's another acronym, obviously. It stands for title, paraphrase. So you're going to look at the title of the poem. You're going to paraphrase what you read on the poem, especially if it's a short poem. Connotation. Attitude. Shifts. That's like line shifts, rhyme shifts, anything like that.
Right.
Then you're going to look at the title again.
Okay.
And then you're going to look at the theme.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I usually do that with, like, especially short poems.
Okay.
Because, like, before you even start reading it, you're going to look at the title the first time.
Right.
And then after you've read it, you're going to go back and look at the title again to see how it relates.
Because it changes the way the title. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and those are all very good methods, especially if this is your first time annotating and you don't have a system in place. And you can even use a combination of all of these things. There really is no wrong way to annotate.
Oh, right. Because some books, like the chapter has a name that kind of foreshadows like something that's going to happen in the story. So going back sometimes and then like you read the chapter title and you're like, huh? Even like TV shows do that too, like Lost.
Oh yeah.
And then you're like, what? And
but
then,
at the end,
and then
you're
like,
oh
yeah. Vampire Diaries does that also.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives you a hint or a foreshadowing moment of what's going to happen in the episode, and that's it's pretty cool. Like when you can go back and read that. And I always like a good book with chapter titles.
I do too. I do too.
So, like, a lot of these new books don't do chapter titles, and I'm just like, but that's so fun. Chapter titles are like a hint.
That's the only time I allow myself to read ahead.
Is to look at the chapter titles.
Yes, but even that, like, sometimes it can give spoilers. I like it when it's so vague at first that it makes no sense, but after you watch the episode or read the chapter, you're like, clever, you picked that one thing that, like, if you're really paying attention, has, like, reverence in the story, and then you made that the chapter title, but it's not like the subject or anything. It's just a piece of it.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. The book that I'm currently reading, and I want to go back and kind of annotate this book. It's called Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I've been reading it for a while and what I like about this book is that it has one of Kristen's favorite things when you open it.
A map. I love
map page. But so what I like about this book is that it doesn't have a chapter title, but it has a quote above the chapter.
Yes, I like those
too, because it's almost like a little
and
poem.
The quote is related to what's going on in the chapter.
Yes. Yeah. I read a book one time that had like a little riddle at the beginning. I don't remember what the book was, but it was like a quote, but to me it was like a riddle.
Okay.
Because the quote was very vague, and then you read the chapter and it's like, wow, you just wrapped up that whole chapter in like
one line,
but it's literally like it's a riddle because the whole time you're reading it, you're thinking about that quote and like how it's playing into the story because it actually has meaning. Yeah.
And so I'll read this quote that goes with chapter 1 of this book, which really made me interested in the book, was it's a dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without their dragon is dead.
Oh, wow.
See, to me, that's a riddle. Like,
yeah.
It's a riddle. I love it. That's cool. Because then it makes me want to read the chapter because like, someone is coming into life or death consequences or in deep danger. That chapter says there's some adventure.
Yeah, and then it goes, and then like first lines of like books and everything really kind of set the tone for it. It said the first line is conscription day is always the deadliest.
Oh.
So you already know that in this chapter, somebody's going to die.
Someone's being trained to be a dragon rider, and someone's going to die. They're going to fall off of their dragon.
Yeah.
And get smushed or stepped on or,
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, like, you already know that sets the tone for the whole book right there is that, like, obviously there's going to be dragons in this book, even if, like, there wasn't a picture of a dragon or anything like that. But, like, obviously there's going to be dragons in this book, and somebody's going to die soon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I can't wait. Did you mention that we decided what book we're
Yeah. We're going to do Hatchet, which is a real, like, I read Hatchet the first time, I think, in, like, 6th grade. So I'm excited to read it again.
I had never heard of this book, even though it's the author is a 3-time Newbery receiver, you know. I had never heard of this book until you mentioned it to us when we were deciding what to do. And I read through it really quick, so and I
think that there are some. I haven't read any of the related books to Hatchet, but I think
there's
like
several
that same
of them.
character is in a few books. I've only ever read Hatchet, and I just remember, and so I'm excited to read it again and annotate it because I just remember like it being me reading in the 6th grade. It's probably like around the same time, like the same age as the character, really.
Right? Yeah.
And I just remember it being like a very emotional. And so, and like it really like kind of hits you in like the feels when you're a sixth grader and like the frustration and everything like that. So I'm excited to read it again.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to read it as an adult because I feel like maybe just understanding like what the key theme is and what the story plot is about. I don't know, maybe just coming at it as an adult with a different lens.
So you read it as a child?
No, I
also?
didn't read it as a child.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is actually my first time reading it.
Okay.
But I know what it's about because everyone else in school read it. I just happened to be in the one class where we didn't. We read something else. So
I read it for like the pizza party or whatever.
Right, so you could get the pizza party
points.
at school.
What is that called?
Oh yeah,
Advanced reading.
No, accelerated reader.
Yeah. Accelerated reader. Yeah, I read it for
program.
accelerated reading.
Yeah. So I had some tips based off of annotating specifically for this book. Key lenses to read through. So, and there's no story details here really, but survival versus civilization.
Okay.
Mindset and adaptation. So these are like lenses to read through.
You're going too fast.
Survival versus civilization.
Right.
Mindset and adaptation. So where the thinking patterns evolve for the character.
Okay.
Nature as neutral.
Nature as neutral. Okay.
And learning through failure.
Okay.
And then suggested color coding system is for sticky tabs. What I was reading was that, because Amber kind of touched on, making notes and looking for things, but I wanted to know what I should consider, using my pencil for, my highlighter, and the sticky notes.
Right.
And so I had asked, of course, me, ChatGPT. And so the pencil is my voice. This is where you write, whoa,
right.
Or this is important, right?
Yeah,
or
when I did mine, I did it in pen, a black pen, yes.
Yeah. And then the highlighter is for the text's voice. So the powerful descriptions, emotional moments, like the quotes, right? And then the sticky tabs, think of them as breadcrumbs so you can find your way back. So the things where there's those common themes, right? And then, so for the color coding system for your sticky tabs, yellow for survival skills and actions. Blue is emotional or mental shifts. So, the character stuff that Amber was talking about, the character changes, the character development. And then green is the nature. And then purple for lessons and realizations. Because that's one of the key elements is the lessons, the adaptation, right? And then it also, like Amber was talking about, the margin using the symbols to use a star for a repeated idea, something like where you see in that repeat. An arrow is a good symbol for cause and effect. And an arrow circle, like a recycle kind of in a circle, for a cycle or pattern returning.
Okay.
And I thought that was kind of cool because if you, I guess if you can remember to use all those, kind of like you said when you started annotating, you were like, how do I keep up with that?
Right.
And it literally dawned on me, I could make myself a bookmark.
My bookmark was literally, in fact, I'm holding my book open right now with all my notes on it.
For the first reading of this, pick one thing.
Right.
Yeah. See, and
don't symbol, highlight, write.
That's for the second
tab.
read.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for your actual
one thing to focus on.
Now, I already read through it once, so I don't know. Because I did not highlight or annotate anything the first time I read through it. I just read it.
Well, now you can speed read through it because you've already read it.
Right.
And pick out the things. Yeah. Or you can slowly read through it and annotate
and slowly
a few things
annotate
as you go.
multiple things.
Yeah. So for me, I'll read it for fun, and then I'll go back and because it's only like what did you say? It was like 200 pages.
Yeah, it's not very long at all.
I'll probably just stick with my pencil.
Yeah, it's less than 200
And then
pages.
if I come across something where I'm like, oh, I think I need to earmark this, I might use one of the sticky notes. And then if I need to come back, I can always swap out the sticky note if I have
like the sticky tabs here, and like I said, I will share a picture of my annotation on the Heard on the podcast or the blog or something, but I use like the little the arrow tabs, the little sticky tabs, and then I wrote on it, different notes like, is this the title? Is this compensating? This is who, if it was somebody's case study, I would write the name of the person, of the patient. I have notes about marketing campaign. That's one of my sticky notes. Here's a bunch of names. Here's a note that it said a quote for the podcast. So I mean, I made little. I put these little tabs in there, and then I made little notes, and I have just all kinds. It's full. I probably could have been a little better organized on this one, but I don't know. It was a first attempt, and so, like I said, I made all these notes in here, and then I had to come back and annotate my notes. So I had to annotate my annotations just so that I could be able to find things for the podcast to talk about. But I'm looking forward to doing this fiction piece, and it was such a enjoyable little short quick read that I think it'll be easy to annotate, and you've given me lots of things to think about.
For sure. Well, I'm looking forward to doing it also. So Kristen, what are we talking about next week?
So next week we are talking about handwriting and note taking, and why
Doing it by hand?
Yeah, right. Handwriting your notes is better for you.
Yes.
So very relatable.
Right. We got one back to back, right?
Well, yeah, and it actually comes into, this kind of makes me think of the annotating. When I annotated the Brene Brown book, I did it on my Kindle, it was on my iPad, but I did it digitally, and I don't think I remembered any of those things after I annotated them. So I really think the physical annotations and notes does help. So I'm curious. I want to talk about that some more. So yay!
Looking forward to it. So I really feel like it's going to be a continuation of this episode.
Well, it kind of is. That's what I think.
Into why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I look forward to talking about that next week. And you guys email us at info@modernmusings.net with your annotation styles. Or if you like to annotate books, let us know what you like to do when you read.
Or post on our Facebook group a picture of your annotated book.
Yes, for sure. We want to see it. We want to hear about it. Because we love hearing from our listeners.
Yes, we do.
Okay, guys. Well, we will talk to you next week.
Bye.